So we're going to go on to the next slide. That's myself, incorporating sources. So whenever you refer to the work or ideas of someone else, you must acknowledge this in the text to allow your reader to see where your information stems from and to respect other people's right to their own intellectual work. This practice is called referencing. And so if you use other people's ideas, words, images, etc. without referencing, you plagiarize. So essentially what you're doing in your reports or your assignments or your dissertation is you have your own ideas, or you have your own investigative subject that you're looking to gain extra information on, and whatever you have, that's been supported by somebody else. So just put it in the chat, when it's being supported by somebody else, where are the other ideas coming from? Whereabouts do you get that support or those sources from? Okay, good. Research. And where do you do your research? I mean, this may seem obvious, but where do you do your research? Exactly, the library online. So, journal articles, yep. Library journals. So what are the one reason now, if any of you have been to any of these workshops before, I may be asking the same, yes, good, Google Scholar. So don't use, Google's okay, Google on its own is okay. Google Scholar's okay. However, if you use Google Scholar, then it usually means that you are not, sometimes you have to pay for some of the databases. So when you go into Google Scholar and you look for an article, it's not as systematically organized, and you might have to, yep, good, Godwin Books, you might have to pay for it. So the best thing to do is to just use the GCU library. And as we come to the end of the session, then I'll just give you a quick reminder. So essentially what you're doing is you're supporting your idea with the works of other people. So esteemed sources. So Turnitin, you'll have heard of, is a service which enables an electronic comparison of students' work to be carried out against the Turnitin database. The Turnitin database holds many different types of information. So Turnitin checks your submission against this database and produces a similarity report based on matching sequences of words. Everything you have copied and pasted will be highlighted. So how have you all submitted something this term already? Have you submitted stuff already this term or this semester? No, okay. So are you, okay, not this term, probably a little bit later. So are you aware of similarity on Turnitin? Okay, you worked with it at Napier, yeah. So basically Turnitin, it's kind of, it's not there to catch you out, but it's just there to show you how to use different ways of being able to carry out, yeah, previous semester, being able to carry out your work. So you can either summarize stuff. So if you've got an article there, you can either summarize it, or if it's just a sentence or something, or a very, very short paragraph, you can paraphrase it, or alternatively, you can put your quotes in. And that's the rest of the stuff will be. So you don't want to be having, you don't want to be copy and pasting stuff, because then it'll be highlighted up and be taken from the original source. So why reference? Now, if there's anything you're ever not sure of, ask your lecturer or the course leader, whoever hands out your, who's ever responsible for handing out your, issuing your assignments. So to complete written research, you need to cite references honestly and professionally. This lets the reader check quotations and data and consult the sources used. So the reader will be your lecturer. Referencing makes sure that you avoid plagiarism and shows the reading you have done. So essentially, all the in-text work you put within your assignment, that will be linked to the work at the end. So everything you have cited or quoted within the text will have a link, will have a reference at the end. So referencing means that your arguments will be clearly supported by evidence. You can use your own sources for further research in the future. Your work will be more convincing. Your reader can find your sources. Your lecturer can see how widely you have read and whether you fully understand the work, and your work will reflect expected academic values and good academic practice. So this is a bit of the terminology explained. So when you use someone else's ideas, you are required to acknowledge the source in your assignment. This is known as citing or in-text referencing. Okay, so when you're, for example, you've read an article on, let me think, on microplastics, and you want to put the ideas of the article within your assignment, you would summarize it, and then at the end of it, you would acknowledge the author. So when you're doing it in the text, what part of the author or what part of the article do you put in your assignment? So say you have brackets. What part of the author's work would you acknowledge? You put it in the chat. So say you've read, can you see the book there? Yep, good. Author, the author's surname and the year, the name and the date. Yep. So remember, it's always the surname, not the first name, and it's not the initial. So it's always the surname. So if it's a foreign author or a name you don't recognise, try and work out. You know, try and work out which is the surname. And this is the date of publication. It's the date of publication. And that date, when you put that in, it will also be the same one that's at the end on a separate sheet of, on a separate page and a separate sheet called references. So in your essays, you'll be required to provide it's kind of the title of work, not in the essay, not in the assignments, you don't put the title of work, but at the references at the end, you would put the title of the work, but not within the essay. You're required to provide a detailed description of your source using a referencing system such as Harvard or numerical referencing. So you'll find out it's more often than not it's Harvard referencing. References should be provided within the text immediately following information taken from another source. So the reference list is at the end of your assignment, so make sure you put it as a completely separate sheet of paper, call it references, and then use heading 1 in Microsoft Word. Hey, Gerard, have you got a question?
Yeah, hi Melanie. In regards to citing, obviously in brackets you put the author's surname and the date of publication, just in the paragraph that you're written.
Yes.
And then to reference that at the end of your piece of work, is it a case of uploading that journal for the sake of it into RefWorks and then sort of using RefWorks to copy and paste into your reference list?
Yep. That's more or less it. So basically, see if you've got a long assignment, or doesn't matter what length, you have to be quite systematic. So say you're reading this article and think, oh, he said something, so I'm going to include, say, Lloyd 2020. I'm going to put that in. You then make sure you've got that article. Then you do the RefWorks thing, which I'll show at the end, and then you upload that, and then it says create bibliography. If you've used it before. And then you copy and paste that. So the only extra thing you would add on to that is date accessed.
Right. It was just that got me. I wasn't sure. Obviously, you put the author's surname and date into your paragraph in brackets, and then in your reference list, use RefWorks to create the bibliography and copy and paste that into your reference list. Right. Cool.
Yep. So when you do the reference list, make sure it's in alphabetical order of the surname. So that's good practice.
Okay.
So make sure it's all. So you've got Lloyd and then whoever, you've got them all in alphabetical order. And also make sure that they are 1.5 spacing. Don't jam them all up.
Yeah, no problem. Yeah.
1.5 spacing. And another thing, so see, I've said there, heading 1. So type in references on a clean sheet, on a new page, and then highlight references. Highlight it as heading 1. See on Microsoft Word, you've got the menu bar, the title bar at the top. Highlight it and highlight it as heading 1, because if you heading 1 means that it turns it into 14 font, and then it means at the end when you create a contents page, anything that's highlighted with heading 1, so you can go and practice now, is automatically populated into a contents page.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, so it's really, so anything you highlight, for example, in your assignment, anything you highlight, like introduction, chapter 1, methodology, literature review, whatever you're doing, chapter 2, if you get that title that you put up and highlight it, so go into Microsoft Word and you'll see along the top there, highlight it as heading 1, and then it'll slightly change its size, and that means that when you go back there and you do insert contents, it will automatically create a contents page listed like that. So it really saves an awful lot of work. You don't have to fiddle about doing it yourself. So reference lists includes the sources you refer to in your writing. A bibliography is actually a little bit different. So you can either call it reference list, which is just those things that you've used, or if you call it bibliography, it could be other things that you've kind of read but you've not referenced. So bibliography is longer than a reference list. So it's got things like, I don't know, a radio program or TV show or I don't know, a YouTube or something you've watched but you haven't actually directly referred to in your assignment. So 3 ways to avoid plagiarism. So quoting. So where you think an author has said something particularly well, you can quote him or her directly and provide a reference to the relevant article beside the quote. So that's not quite what you were saying before. So I'm just going to check. So Galatia, if the assignment is not an essay but a report, do we cite the same way in NIG? Yes, you do. Yes, the same way. Okay. Answer to the previous question. So the difference between a report and an assignment is that a report tends to be more standalone. So each section in a report can stand alone. So for example, an introduction, and then you might have a background to something. So a background to something is standalone. Then you might have another section. Yes, you can either have the reference list or bibliography. Most people call it bibliography. It contains just the same thing, but a bibliography can contain something that you haven't necessarily used in it, like a YouTube. So most people call it bibliography. So yeah, so a report can have standalone paragraphs whereby an assignment usually follows on firstly, secondly, thirdly. This, one paragraph continues to another. So quoting, tell me what punctuation marks you use for quoting. Tell me what punctuation marks. Excellent. Yeah, speech marks, punctuation marks, apostrophes, exactly. So your quote there, speech marks, your quote there, you should have something to say. You have a point that you're making, okay? And an author somewhere else has written something that you think is really good to support what you're saying. It's got to be a really worthwhile piece of work. So I could be saying something about ocean pollution. Okay, so I could say this is further supported by MacDonald brackets 2015, who declared, and then in the quotation marks, who declared the state of the ocean is an absolute catastrophic level, full stop. Okay, so your quote is something really important. So quite often when you're reading an article and you see something the author's written, and you think it would benefit your essay, and it shows you've done extensive reading, it's always really good to put a few quotes in. However, don't overuse them, don't fill it up. And it also means that your assignment isn't kind of deadpan. It's not just piles of summarized things. You know, you've got the odd quote in there. It makes for really good reading. So summarizing, you add an overview of the source material in your own words, and you provide a reference to the relevant source. So summarizing, you're summarizing the whole thing. You're just summing up what the author has said, and at the end of the paragraph, then you say Collins 2015. Okay, and then at the end, you would put the name of the author. So whatever you're doing, wherever you're getting extra information from, you need to remember to put that in. When it's dead obvious things like water boils at 100 degrees, you don't need to put that in. When it's obvious things, when it's general information, you don't need to put that in. But when it's something specific, then you do. So at the end, on the bibliography or the reference page, you would have the full reference for Collins. So I think it was Gerard you asked, you would then go into RefWorks or somewhere that you can get it a lot easier, and you'll be able to use get the full reference for Collins. So paraphrasing. You condense the ideas from the source in your own words, but more details in summarizing provide the source. So you usually paraphrase like a sentence. Okay, so if somebody's saying something, a sentence or a short paragraph is one of the good things to paraphrase. So for anybody who's an international student or whose English isn't their first language or something, what do you avoid when you're paraphrasing? And I've said it before. What's the thing to avoid doing when you're paraphrasing? You avoid translating. So translating is a nightmare. If you translate from anything into English, the translation doesn't come out correctly. So avoid translating. So lots of other things you can do to paraphrase something. So, and this is basically covering it slightly again. So introducing work into your text by quoting the exact words from a source, by citation, which involves paraphrasing the idea into your own words. So you're either incorporating a quote, or you're paraphrasing or summarizing it and then putting the author's surname and date of publication. In both cases, you need to indicate the source material by means of citation. So this is an example. I think this was microplastics. So in addition, decreasing particle size increases the range of organisms that can ingest the debris. So there you have got Law and Thompson. They are the names of the two authors. In fact, that should have a comma there. And the date of publication. So whatever is in your assignment there, you have to put in at the end. So that's the full reference, except, and I took that from an article in a GCU library. So whatever you put in the text must always match up. Hi, Alan. Got a question?
Yeah. The number at the bottom, is that the RefWorks number? Or something else?
Oh, no. I think that's the name of a publication. Yeah. And the 144 to 145 is the page number.
Oh, okay. Understood.
But
yeah.
Aye.
Journal 345, page 144 to 145, something like that.
Yeah, but I'll show you at the end when we go to RefWorks. I mean, you don't have to use RefWorks. It does it automatically. You can actually, and we'll look at Cite Them Right. There's a program called Cite Them Right, and that tells you everything about referencing. When I did my dissertation, when I did my first master for assignments, I did it all painfully by hand. And then when I did my dissertation, I used RefWorks. Because there's lots of different ways of referencing things, you know, like social media sites and the BBC sites, and you know, there's so many different ways to reference that I'll show you at the end.
Okay, thanks.
So there's two ways here. you can have information and author prominent. So the first one there, children express an interest in books and pictures from an early age, Murphy, 1995. Okay, so that's just basically summarizing or paraphrasing it. So that's a citation. Or you can say, you can do it the other way. You can have that author prominent, and it's really good to mix up the two of them. So they're saying the same kind of thing. So Murphy, except it's a different author, 2008, claimed that children as young as 6 months are able to follow a simple story sequence. So see the top one there, where you've just got the author and the date and publication in brackets. If you have that throughout your assignment, it can get a bit kind of dry. You know, endless pages with endless authors and publication, you're just going through it. It doesn't really allow the work to be very joyful, as it were, or, you know, not very varied. Whereby if you can change them, so you can put Murphy, claim that. So you can always use claimed, their reporting verb. So it's really good to vary the way that you do it. So, quoting. Now we've done a bit, this is just a bit of a reminder. Quoting is where you copy an author's text word for word, place quotation marks around the words and reference the author at the end of the quote. Now normally when a lecturer, how come it's not Murphy T? Okay, because I won't try and pronounce your name, because it's within, when you're doing it within the text, it's only Murphy 1995. You only have the surname. It's only when you do the bibliography at the end that you put the initials in. I know it seems crazy, but when you put it in the text, so anything you read within the text, it should be just the author's second name and then the date of publication. All the rest of, like, all the initials and all the other stuff, like the name of the article and place of publication, that always comes in the bibliography at the end. Is that cleared that? Okay. So yeah, so see when you submit an assignment, your lecturer will normally set up the assignment so that it ignores quotes, because quoting is obviously copying exactly what somebody said, but so the lecturer will normally set up the Turnitin box so that it ignores quotes, so that's not counted, it's not deemed as plagiarism. So for an example, in discussing the importance of teaching study skills, Jordan, 1997, page 8, states that study skills are not something acquired instinctively. So look at the different ways you can incorporate somebody else's work within your text. You don't just have to have the information prominent. So there's different ways you can incorporate it. So it'd be worth getting a hang of the various ways. Yeah. When quoting others' work, make sure that you copy the quote exactly from the original as the author has written it, taking care to include quotation marks. However, don't overdo it. So it's like whatever you do, don't overdo it. So don't overdo quotes, because then if you have too many quotes, so I'll ask you, if you have too many quotes, what will it look like? What will your assignment look like if it's full of quotations? What do you think your assignment will look like if it's full of too many quotes? Patchy. Copy and pasting other people's job. Yeah. Yes, that's exactly it. So if you essentially, if you can't, if it's full of too many other quotes, it just means you haven't really got enough to say for yourself. You're just relying on other people. I mean, essentially the work is a mishmash of other people's ideas, but it's not really very critically done. So you're as well kind of limiting it. According to Saunders, brackets 2006, comma, Black economies build businesses. Use reporting verbs. Now this is something which is really worth doing a lot of, usually in the past tense. So when you use your direct quotes, use these: alleges, asserts, claims. So look at the difference between them. So state is kind of like a neutral one. Report is kind of neutral. Warns is kind of defensive. Claims means you're a bit unsure. Considers means you're slightly unsure. Demonstrates is kind of neutral, it's kind of middle of the road. Alleges means you're unsure. Asserts is quite positive. Shows is kind of neutral. Explains is also neutral. So when you use all these reporting verbs, make sure you know what they all mean. Or make sure that you know, so for example, if you're reporting something that somebody has said who's disagreeing with your work, you could use a stronger reporting verb. In fact, if you hold on a second, I will try and get into yes, considers and claim that. Yeah, yes. Sorry, I'm trying to minimize my screen. That's it, got it. I'm just gonna find a link for you and I'll put it up because it shows you reporting verbs. Reporting results. Well, hold on, I'm just bringing it up. Okay, so hold on, but go do quotations. Donald, they do count towards word count. So Adewale, once our quotation mark Turnitin won't see it's plagiarism. No, they usually won't, because your lecturer will normally have set the Turnitin inbox, you know, to say to ignore quotation marks. Yeah, so see if you look at that. See if you look at that, those things. It just means that you can say so alleges. So alleges is a verb. So you can say that I don't know. When something's actually not proven, you can allege something. So you could say that COP26 or somebody alleges that the emission of CO2 reduced by blah, blah, blah. Okay, you can use, so it really is worth having about 20 of those so you can pick and choose them. So then it means, because if you just say said or states and try and avoid this one. Try and avoid according to, because according to is boring. And everybody uses according to. I think you can just step it up a wee bit and use one of these reporting verbs. Okay, so how to paraphrase. So everybody has loads of things to read, and you've all got literature which is recommended and lots of stuff to read. However, nobody really has the want or the time to read absolutely everything. So the one thing, and I did a reading strategies workshop a couple of weeks ago, but the one thing not to do is don't get it and just read it word for word. It's time consuming, you won't take it in. You should kind of do things, speed read it to establish the meaning. So say you have a couple of 3 or 4 pages of article or however long it is, speed through it. So practice speed reading. Even though nowadays we're more used to reading like small chunks text, practice speed reading it to kind of get the overall idea. Turn away and write down key ideas. So you probably won't get, you'll probably get a rough idea of what it's about, but you won't get the full idea. So turn away, write down key ideas. Reread intensively for greater details. Okay, so read it again to get a bit more of a meaning of it. And then from memory, note the key points which support the main ideas. So turn away again and write down those key points. and record the bibliographical details for a reference list. So when you've got all your key points that you will have noted down, it's those key points that you'll be using to paraphrase. So it's those key points that you'll be using to make up your paragraph or whatever. Because if you just read an article and you read it word for word and you underline, forget underlining. If you underline all the keywords, you're not really going to remember any of it, and it's not really going to make any sense. So these are really important. So always have a good reason for adding a direct quote. Okay, so make sure that there's a reason for supporting it. What is that quote actually doing? Is it supporting? So think of those reporting verbs. Is it supporting something you've said? Is it disagreeing with it? Is it refuting it? Is it simply explaining something? So don't allow quotes to speak for themselves. So following a quote, you could say, this demonstrates. This demonstrates that, or whatever the author said, this demonstrates that, or this shows that, or this attempt by Murphy, brackets 2020, pointed out that, or further studies illustrated that. So always make sure that you know exactly why you put a quotation in there. Don't just stuff it in. Yeah, make sure you provide an analysis of the quote. So whatever you've quoted, put down why you've quoted it. So you're kind of critiquing or you're analysing exactly what you've said. So again, this shows that, this demonstrates that. Don't use quotes as padding. Don't puff out your assignment to build up the word count. So extract those parts of the passage that need quoting and integrate quotes smoothly into your text. So it doesn't have to be patchwork. So think of what you're thinking, or the lines of what you're trying to say. So when you've got your assignment, title, your assignment should have a topic. Your assignment should be about something, or your report should be about something. So whatever you're trying to say, you're getting somebody else and you're supporting it. So you can either do that by citing, paraphrasing, or quoting. So choose your introductory verb carefully. So by that, I think I'm meaning introductory verb. Yeah, your reporting verb. This demonstrates, this alleges, claimed. So use one of those reporting verbs. And then we go again. A reference list is a list of all the authors you have used and referred to within your assignment. So a reference list comes at the back of your assignment with the authors listed in alphabetical order. Use Cite them right in GCU RefWorks. Okay, so I'm now going to quit out that. I'm now going to bring up the GCU library and I'm going to quickly show you RefWorks, and I'm going to type something in. In fact, I might just try and I'll stop sharing that. So can you tell me, can you see the GCU library on the screen? Or is it a mess? Good. Magic. So this, now I think this is great, this thing. So right, so you've obviously all got your GCU email addresses. So make sure you log in. You log into the library, GCU library, and you bring up Discover there. Okay, so I'm going to search for something. Microplastics. So say I'm doing an assignment, a report on microplastics. I'll type in UK. Search. Okay, so it's bringing it's there. It has brought up 4,063 results. Okay, so what I want to do is I just want an article. So I'm clicking on articles. So this is how to refine it. This is how to make your life an awful lot easier. Refine it. The publication date at the moment is 1989 to 2022. So I want it 2015. I want to refine it. Okay, so now I've got 2,149 results. Okay, so you can you still all see that on the screen? Magic. Good. So here's an article: large microplastic particles and sediments of tributaries of the River Thames, UK, abundant sources and methods for effective quantification. So I want that article. I want to use that source. So I'm going to click on it. So imagine I've read it and I've taken a quotation out of it and I think I want to use this. So I'm going to use RefWorks. So what you have to do is you can do the same thing, do it afterwards, or you can do it another tab just now. So all you need is you kind of need to create an account with RefWorks. So RefWorks, if you create an account with RefWorks, then that will store all the articles and all the sources and everything you've used for a particular assignment. So you can store it under various names. So I will click on RefWorks. Then it will say continue exporting to RefWorks. Yes, export to the newest version of RefWorks. I then want to import my reference, so I just press import. And it says we've saved one document in your library, so that document will be the one in microplastics. So it says okay. And there you have it there. That top one there is large microplastics, particles and sediments of tributaries. That is the article. So that is the article that I'm wanting to create a reference from. And I want to get that reference because I've used it in my thing. I've taken quotations for it. So I want to use that at the end. So you click on the box beside it and you do create bibliography. Top there, create bibliography. It's asking me to choose which one of the referencing standards. So copy to clipboard, and that's it there. Okay, so that is the reference which you'd put at the end. You can see all the authors. So there's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 different authors of all different, and the date is 2017, and there's the page numbers. So the only other thing you would have on that is the date accessed. So date access is the date you're doing it, which I would say is today. So I'm going to go back now. So I've got that article there. So now I want to know how to cite them within my assignment. So I'm thinking, I don't know how to do that. I've got Horton, Alice, Svensson, Klaus, Elman. I've got all these people. How on earth would I quote that within, within my text? So again, I go to create bibliography. Quick cite. So quick cite means it's loading the styles. Continue. Top one. And there you have it there. So if I had paraphrased or summarized that text, I'm acknowledging the author. So quick cite shows me how to acknowledge it within the text. So it's Horton, Svensson et al. 2017. And then you continue to bibliography. And then that gives you the bibliography. Okay, so I'm gonna yep, Gerard?
Yeah, hi Melanie. What you just did there, the quotation in parentheses, is that what you would put in in the paragraph that you've quoted that document from? Is that your citation? Would that be in
Yeah, so say, yeah, so when I've quick cite, can you see what I'm doing?
Yeah.
Yeah, so continue. So the first one, so that's the, yeah. So see
So
that one there?
Yeah, that halt extension, that would be in your paragraph somewhere that you're quoting.
Yes.
Right, okay, right, get you. Okay, thank you.
Yeah. So that, but remember, but yeah, so say I was paraphrasing, summarizing, sorry, a whole page about microplastics and think, oh, where did I get that from? And then you're acknowledging the author. So at the end, you would put brackets. So that's just paraphrasing it. But if I'd put a quotation in from these authors, or quotation from the article, I would say, Horton, Svensson et al., brackets 2017, stated, in inverted commas, the ocean is a complete mess, full stop. Do you see what I mean? Yeah, okay. So it's really good if you go back to that, you'll be able to, yeah. Oh, Phyllis, wait a minute, I'll go back to question. Okay, if I export a list of, say, 5 sources into RefWorks, can sometimes show that available from the 2 sources as URLs and 3 as... No, they don't have to be uniform. So you would just take them as they're exported. But I'm going to show you something else now. So that's RefWorks. So make sure that you use RefWorks. I'm going to stop sharing it. And I'm now going to go to something else. I'm now going to show you something else. GCU library. Hold on. Share content, share application screen. Okay, so I'm back in the library. So I'm now going to go to the Discover bar and I'm going to go to Cite Them Right. So Cite Them Right is a referencing software that GCU bought. So Cite Them Right, search. That essentially means citing correctly. Click on the top one, Cite Them Right, because we've got a license for it, so we don't have to pay for it. And then click again, Cite Them Right. It's asking me to sign in. It'll ask you to sign in with your uni email and whatnot. And there you have what is referencing tutorials, confidential information. How can I avoid plagiarizing, summarizing, understanding, summarizing, common questions and referencing, paraphrasing. You could, I think, search. I could, citations. Setting out citations, how citations should be laid out in your essays, and then you can filter it by, styles. Okay, so Cite Them Right is a really good way, an extra thing. So, and I'll stop sharing that. So basically, you should have one of those. You should have those. Well, you could have them up in your saved up on your desktop or in your favorites bar or something. So I'm just going to now go back to the PowerPoint. Hi, Alan. Got a question?
Yeah, it's a quick question. I was trying to keep up with you on the flicking to Cite Them Right thing. Do you actually have to log in, or is it all from just the...
It's all from, no, sorry, I was going too fast. So basically, you just go to the GCU library, into the Discover, Cite Them Right, and just keep going on it, and you'll probably just log in with your uni email address.
Yeah, I think I have done. I've got to. Access is brought to you by Glasgow Caledonian, and I'm on their website, so I assume we just use it from there. Yeah.
Yeah. And then it's really good because it's really simple because there's more and more information all over the place in so many different formats, like, you know, YouTubes and tweets and all this kind of stuff. It's a really good way of knowing how to reference it properly. For example, if you're watching a BBC series and you want to reference the episode 2, there's a difference between what you'd put in the text in the halfway through it and then at the end.
Okay, thanks.
So it's really good. Right, I'm just gonna finish the PowerPoint. I think I'd kind of got to the end. I think I was there. Oh, wait a minute. Okay, yes. So there are multiple referencing systems and styles used across GCU, so please check your module handbook or speak to your tutor to clarify which you should use. So cite them right will help you to reference just about any source you might need to use and understand how to avoid plagiarism. It also includes a helpful referencing tutorial to help develop your skills, because when you're, for the marking schedule for an assignment or for your dissertation, quite a bit of it is done in formatting and presentation. So if you get your formatting and your referencing and your presentation correct, then that's you got, you know, you're on the road. Tips: start a new page at the end. What I mean is add on a page at the end and label it references, size 14, heading 1. So go to Microsoft Word, like I said, get references or bibliography and save it as heading 1. Ensure that you record everything that you use. Use GCU RefWorks, so this will record everything you have used. Source quotations, meaning whenever you use a quotation, make sure that the quotation is within your text and it's also at the end. Okay, don't use a translator, and use a good online dictionaries for synonyms and meanings. So just go in and use Cambridge or Oxford, you know, because we all get stuck with using the same kind of vocabulary. But if you want to really use good vocabulary, it really is worth using. So for example, you shouldn't have to say get, you should say, you know, obtain, and don't use words like a lot and big and small and great, because they're too emotive. So enjoy referencing.